Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore those internal struggles, the ones that really define modern life, and try to find some practical clarity. And today, we are diving into a big one. A really magnificent conflict, actually. It's something that, well, I think it haunts almost every conscious person who's trying to build a meaningful, successful life. Doesn't matter if it's in business, art, community work.
Oh, absolutely. It's that moment, isn't it? That kind of spiritual whiplash. You finally carve out some space for quiet, for intentional practice.
Yeah, the meditation, maybe journaling, quiet walk.
Right. And you touch that place, that, beautiful, pure, undisturbed awareness. You feel whole for a moment.
And then bam, ambition hits. Like right on the heels of that piece, this thought just pops up, clear as day. Okay, I need to expand this. I need to reach more people. I want to earn more money.
And before that thought even fully lands,
the judgment comes crashing in. That inner critic voice, whoa, hang on, isn't that greedy? Shouldn't I just be content? I'm supposed to be spiritual, detached. Right.
Exactly that split-second recoil, that self-reproach. It's this tension between wanting to grow, wanting to achieve, and feeling like you should just be content. That's the core dilemma we're looking at today.
And we're saying this isn't some kind of moral failing on your part, right? It's not proof that you're secretly corrupt or not spiritual enough.
Not at all. We're framing it as a crisis of, profound cognitive dissonance. There's a clash happening inside.
Right. And the root cause, it seems, is this really destructive modern myth, this false choice, this dichotomy between being genuinely spiritual and achieving real tangible success in the world.
We've somehow absorbed this cultural idea, this binary. On one side, you've got the image of the, let's say, monk in saffron robes, totally renounced, pure, simple.
Yeah, detached from worldly things.
And on the other side, the stereotype of the ruthless wealth chaser, driven only by ego, probably cutting corners, morally compromised.
We think we have to be one or the other.
Precisely. And that binary thinking, it's incredibly damaging. It traps so many sincere, well-intentioned people in what we're calling spiritual shame.
Spiritual shame. That's potent.
It is. Because these are people who genuinely want to innovate, they want to contribute, maybe build something meaningful, that scales, that lasts, but they're haunted by this voice saying authentic spirituality means holding back, staying small, maybe even struggling financially.
So our mission today in this deep dive is really to pull that myth apart. We want to use some, deep wisdom to show that ambition. When it's genuinely aligned with your values, with wisdom anchored in a desire to serve. It's not a distraction from your path.
Far from it. We're actually suggesting that aligned ambition can be the very fuel for your path. It can drive your growth and impact.
Okay, so the core insight we're aiming to unlock here, the thread running through this whole conversation, is that spirituality isn't ultimately judged by how much you have, or how little you have for that matter.
Exactly. It's entirely about why you want what you want. And crucially, how consciously, how ethically you choose to use the resources you gather. That's the real measure.
Okay, let's start by unpacking that feeling, that spiritual shame. Where does this guilt actually come from? Why is it so pervasive, so sticky, even for people who, intellectually, they don't think money is inherently evil?
Well, it lingers, I think, because we've inherited this cultural overlay. It's a story, really, that mistakenly glorifies struggle or suffering, or even just staying small, as if that's the only proof of real devotion.
Like hardship makes you holy.
Kind of, yeah. Historically, you look at many spiritual traditions, East and West, and the monastic life, the act of renunciation, that was often held up as the gold standard.
Right, the highest path.
And when we see that, we can easily mistake the outward form, the asceticism, the lack of material possessions for the inner substance. We confuse limitation with true spirituality. But true spirituality at its core is about inner awakening, gaining clarity, developing wisdom, and crucially, learning to operate skillfully and compassionately in the world, not just retreating from it.
So we've kind of mixed up humility with playing small. We think asking for our value or building something that generates real resources makes us less spiritual somehow.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this belief, this internalized shame, it has a direct, very tangible, limiting effect on the potential impact of genuinely good work out there.
Can you give an example? Like, how does this show up practically?
Oh, we see it constantly. Think about the conscious entrepreneur, maybe a coach, a therapist, someone developing helpful tech, a consultant. Their work genuinely transforms lives, but they hesitate, sometimes even flat out refuse to raise their prices.
Even when they're completely booked, maybe even burning out.
Exactly. Even when demand is high and they're overworked, there's this deep fear of selling out.
Yeah, I know that fear.
They see charging a higher price, a premium price, as somehow spiritually corrupting, even though that higher price could be the very thing that allows them to hire support staff, sustain their own energy and health, maybe even fund scholarships or offer pro bono work for those who can't afford the full rate.
So the shame is actually limiting their ability to serve more people or serve them sustainably.
Precisely. They're limiting their capacity for sustained service because of this internalized shame. It's not genuine humility. Real humility might be recognizing the value you can bring and then structuring things, including pricing, so you can actually deliver that value sustainably over the long haul.
It's funny, isn't it? We accept that, say, a farmer needs to charge enough for their produce to keep the farm going, feed the community. But somehow, a spiritual teacher or a conscious creator, they're expected to operate on the edge of collapse just to prove they're sincere. It doesn't really add up.
It's fundamentally illogical when you examine it. And that's exactly why looking back at, well, ancient wisdom that counters this modern guilt is so important. This isn't a new problem. People have navigated this successfully for centuries.
Okay, so who should we look to? Is there a key example?
I think the perfect counterexample, the one that really cuts through this, is the story of Anathapindika from the Buddhist tradition.
Anathapindika, right? He was known for his generosity, wasn't he? But he wasn't poor.
Not even close. He was one of the Buddha's most devoted lay followers. Yes, incredibly generous. But his profession, he was one of the wealthiest merchants in ancient India at the time. Hugely successful.
Wow. Okay, and what did the Buddha think about that?
Well, his name literally means feeder of the helpless, or one who gives alms to the poor, because he used his vast resources to support those in need to fund the monastic community.
So the Buddha didn't tell him, hey, great, you're devoted, now sell everything.
Absolutely not. Quite the opposite, in fact. The Buddha consistently held Anathapindika up as a model disciple. A model of generosity, yes, but also of wisdom and right livelihood. He praised him.
Right, livelihood.
Yeah.
Even as a wealthy merchant.
Yes. The famous story is how he bought the land for the Jetavana monastery, a key place for the Buddha's teachings. He apparently covered the entire ground with gold coins to meet the asking price. Then he funded the building of this major monastic center.
So his wealth wasn't seen as a problem or a barrier to his spiritual life.
Not at all. It was the vehicle for his practice, for his expression of Dharma, of his understanding. It enabled his generosity on a massive scale.
That's a powerful reframe. The expectation wasn't poverty.
No, the expectation, the spiritual standard applied to him wasn't about renouncing his wealth outwardly. It was about purifying his inner intention. Why was he earning? How was he using it? Could he remain wealthy while being motivated by compassion and directing his resources toward the greater good? The answer was yes.
So, if one of the most revered spiritual teachers in history praised a wealthy merchant as a model follower, then this modern idea that real spirituality means being poor or struggling is just, well, it's wrong.
It's a cultural bias, a misunderstanding we've layered on top. It's not the original teaching. The focus was always on the why behind the wealth, not the wealth itself.
Okay, that point about purifying intention feels absolutely critical. It's the pivot, isn't it? And it leads us right into discerning desire, figuring out the difference between, just blindly chasing stuff and consciously moving forward with a real purpose.
Exactly. And the primary tool for this discernment is mindfulness.
But mindfulness isn't about stopping the desire, right? Because that feels like suppression again.
No, not at all. It's not about squashing the desire the moment it pops up. Oh, I want more money, bad thought. Instead, you observe it. You get curious about it without immediately judging it or getting swept away by it. You look at its texture, its flavor. Where is this coming from? What quality of energy does this desire have?
Because not all desire is the same. We tend to lump it all together as bad in a spiritual context, but it's more nuanced than that.
Much more nuanced. And Buddhist psychology in particular offers this incredibly helpful distinction that often gets lost in translation or pop spirituality. It tells us desire itself isn't the enemy. There are different kinds of desire.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, there's the one we often think of when we hear desire in a negative sense. It's called taṇhā in Pali. This translates roughly as thirst or craving.
Taṇhā. Okay. And what does that look like in, say, my ambitious life today? How does it show up?
Taṇhā is that wanting that comes from a place of lack, ignorance, or comparison. It's driven by a feeling of scarcity or maybe the fear of being left behind, the fear of missing out. It's compulsive. It whispers that if you just get that thing, the money, the status, the recognition, then the inner ache will finally go away.
But it never really does it?
Yeah, that's the key. Taṇhā fuels this endless, often anxious striving that doesn't lead to lasting fulfillment. It actually generates what the Buddha called dukkha, that subtle, pervasive sense of dissatisfaction, stress, or suffering.
Yeah, I recognize that feeling. It's like you hit the goal, you get the promotion, the revenue target, and maybe there's a brief high.
Maybe. For a moment.
But then, almost immediately, the goalpost moves. The anxiety creeps back in, or you're already looking for the next thing. That restlessness, that's dukkha, fueled by taṇhā.
Exactly. It's the exhaustion of the hedonic treadmill, psychologists call it. You get the shiny new thing, the praise, whatever, and very quickly your baseline happiness just resets and you're scanning the horizon for the next external hit. It's a loop driven by underlying fear or lack.
Okay, so that's the craving, the taṇhā. What's the other kind of desire? The one that's okay or even good?
That's called chanda. It's often translated as wise intention, purposeful desire, or zeal. Chanda is the energy behind skillful, purposeful action.
How's it different from taṇhā?
Chanda is the motivation that drives you to learn something difficult that will help others, or to build an organization that operates ethically, or maybe to expand your skills so you can serve your community more effectively. It's about growth, contribution, purpose, and here's the crucial part. The Buddha explicitly said chanda is essential for making progress on the spiritual path.
Really? He said it's essential.
Yes. Without that positive, purposeful energy, that willingness to strive towards something wholesome, you just stagnate. Chanda provides the necessary forward momentum.
Wow. Okay, so the fundamental question I should be asking myself isn't the old paralyzing one, should I want more?
No, that's the trap.
The real question, the more insightful one is, what quality of desire is moving through me right now? Is this the anxious grasping of taṇhā? Or is this the purposeful energy of chanda?
That discernment is the practice. That's your spiritual homework right there. You sit with the feeling. Does it feel, I don't know, hot, tight, anxious? Is it tied up with comparing yourself to others, feeling less than? That's likely taṇhā. Or does it feel maybe cooler, more spacious, expansive? Is it connected to a sense of potential, of service, of bringing something valuable into the world? That energy is likely chanda.
Let me try an example just to make sure I'm getting this. Let's say I find myself really wanting a faster, maybe fancier car. Normally I'd just label that ego, right? Pure taṇhā. Could it ever be chanda?
It absolutely could be either, and that's the power of this distinction. It's not about the object itself. If you want the car primarily to impress your neighbors or to project an image of success you don't quite feel inside, or just to get that temporary buzz, that's pretty clearly taṇhā. The motivation is external validation or filling an inner void.
Right, makes sense.
But let's imagine your work involves, say, traveling long distances frequently, maybe to visit clients in rural areas or to transport materials for a community project, and a faster, safer, more reliable vehicle would genuinely allow you to do that work more effectively, reach more people, maybe even reduce your own stress and fatigue so you can serve better. In that case, the desire for the car could very well arise from chanda.
Because the underlying intention is about increasing capacity for service, not just ego gratification.
Exactly. The object, the car is neutral. The intention, the why behind the wanting is everything.
Okay, that clarifies things immensely. So the real transformation happens when that desire for more resources, more reach, more income arises from that deeper place, that knowing.
Yes. When the thought is truly, look, with more resources, I can genuinely reach more people who need this. I can create better quality work that has a bigger impact. I can provide security for my family so I'm not operating from fear. And I can give back more generously without feeling depleted myself.
When ambition connects to service like that?
Then it's not just ambition anymore. It becomes aspiration. It becomes aligned.
Yeah.
That impulse to grow isn't a spiritual compromise. It could actually be your Dharma, your purpose, seeking to express itself more fully in the world.
Okay, so we've figured out the why. We've discerned the quality of our desire. Hopefully it's more chanda than taṇhā. Now, how do we actually bring this into our daily work life? This leads us to right livelihood, doesn't it? Making a living in a conscious way.
Exactly. Section 3, right livelihood. It's one of the core elements of the Buddha's Eightfold Path to Liberation. And like we touched on earlier, it often gets reduced to a very basic list of don'ts.
Yeah, like don't sell weapons, don't deal in poisons, don't cheat people, that kind of thing. Which is important, obviously.
Absolutely essential baseline ethics. But the deeper meaning, especially for us navigating the complexities of the modern economy, is much more profound. It's essentially saying, your work, the way you spend your days earning a living, should be a natural extension of your awakening journey. It shouldn't create a split within you. It shouldn't fracture your integrity.
So it's prescribing integrity, the coherence between inner values and outer action. It's not prescribing poverty or demanding everyone become a monk.
Precisely. It requires bringing this mindful awareness right into the heart of your economic activity, constantly checking in. Is what I'm doing day to day contributing to suffering mine or others, or is it in some way contributing to well-being, to liberation, to making things better?
And this need for deep integrity, for alignment, you mentioned, it leads to a really different way of thinking about stress, right?
Yeah.
We usually just blame ambition itself. Oh, I'm so stressed because I'm trying to do too much.
And that's the common narrative, the hustle culture burnout story. But what if the root cause isn't the amount of ambition, but the direction of it?
What do you mean?
What if the deep, grinding stress we often feel isn't caused simply by hard work or high goals, but rather by misalignment? What if that feeling of being constantly stressed, anxious, or on the edge of burnout is actually the friction generated when your outer actions, the job you do, the targets you chase, the way you spend your energy, are fundamentally clashing with your inner truth, your core values?
Wow, so the stress is a signal.
Yeah.
A signal that something is out of whack between my work and my values.
It's a critical diagnostic tool. That friction, that unease, that's the source of so much modern anxiety, burnout, and that quiet, corrosive sense of shame we talked about. It's your inner wisdom saying, hey, this isn't right, this doesn't align.
So instead of just popping a stress pill or blaming my ambition, the first question when I feel that deep work stress should be, okay, where's the conflict here? Where is what I'm doing rubbing up against what I truly believe or value?
That is the powerful, spiritually informed inquiry. And honestly, once you start looking through that lens, you see this misalignment playing out everywhere in the modern professional world. Think about people working in systems that are fundamentally designed to prioritize short-term financial profit over, say, long-term human well-being or environmental health.
Can you give a couple of clear examples? Make it really concrete.
Sure. Imagine a marketing professional. Let's say their personal values are strongly rooted in honesty, transparency, helping people make informed choices. But their job requires them to use psychologically manipulative tactics to push a product they know is mediocre, or maybe even harmful in the long run. They might be hitting their targets, getting bonuses,
But feeling kind of sick inside while doing it.
Exactly. Every day they go against their own integrity, they accumulate this sort of spiritual debt. And it manifests as anxiety, maybe cynicism, definitely stress. Or think about a software developer. Maybe they're passionate about using technology to connect people, to educate, to empower.
Yeah.
But they find themselves working for a company whose entire business model relies on creating addictive apps. Apps designed specifically to hijack our attention, exploit our brain's reward systems, maybe even increase social division or anxiety. They're getting paid well, maybe working on cutting-edge tech.
But they're essentially building digital tools that increase suffering in the world.
Precisely. Now, the crucial point here is that the inner conflict these individuals feel, the marketer's unease, the developer's guilt, that's not a sign of weakness. It's not that they just need better stress management techniques.
It's a sign of waking up.
It's the first sign of awakening. It's their deeper self, their conscience, their integrity, screaming out in discomfort because of the harm or the dishonesty inherent in the system they're part of. Their spiritual journey is essentially prompting them through this discomfort to bring awareness to their livelihood and potentially make a difficult but liberating choice.
And when someone makes that choice,
Yeah.
when they decide to prioritize alignment, maybe leave that job, start their own thing, find work that resonates,
Yeah.
what happens then?
That's where we can see this beautiful potential for what you might call the alchemy of service. Let's go back to our mindfulness coach example, the one who was hesitant to raise her rates.
Right, fearing she was selling out.
Let's say she does the inner work. She discerns her intention. It's chanda. She genuinely wants to serve sustainably and deeply. She decides to embrace alignment and starts charging premium rates for a high-quality, intensive program. Maybe it costs several $1,000s now instead of $50 an hour.
That initial guilt must be intense.
Probably. Am I exploiting people? Is this greedy? But she uses her clear intention, her chanda, as her anchor. She understands that this premium structure actually serves the work. Firstly, it often ensures that the clients who sign up are deeply committed, ready to engage fully. Secondly, and just as importantly, it provides her with financial stability and breathing room.
And how does that sustainability, that breathing room, serve the larger mission?
Well, now, with these aligned earnings, she's not constantly scrambling. She can afford things that enhance the work, maybe proper supervision for herself, ongoing training, high-quality materials, maybe administrative support so she isn't drowning in emails and logistics. And crucially, she now has the resources, both time and money, to create and fund substantial scholarship programs. She can actively reach out to underserved communities, people who could never have afforded even her old $50 rate. Her capacity to give back expands dramatically.
Ah, I see. So the money stops being just about her personal gain or status.
Exactly. It becomes fuel. It becomes a direct measure of her capacity to serve. It funds the reach, the depth, the quality, and the long-term sustainability of her work, her Dharma. The material success isn't separate from the spiritual mission anymore. It's become integral to it. And this conscious handling of resources, this alignment and action, leads us right into the next crucial piece: strategic spirituality and practical alignment. How do we translate these big ideas into the nitty-gritty of our daily lives and decisions?
Yeah, okay, so getting practical, what's the core principle here?
Yes. The theoretical bedrock is the concept of taṇhā. It's a Pali word, often translated as volition, intention, or the mental impulse that directs action. There's a famous line in the Dhammapada, a core Buddhist text: mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought.
Meaning our thoughts, our intentions actually shape our reality.
In a very real sense, yes. It means the quality of your inner narrative, the nature of your sadhana, your intention, fundamentally shapes your experience, including your professional and financial reality. So we have to get strategic about it.
Strategic? How? Most of the time, my intentions around work and money feel pretty automatic. Probably fear-based, if I'm honest.
Exactly. That's the key insight. Most of us operate on these deeply ingrained, fear-based autopilot intentions. They're like mental scripts running constantly in the background, often unnoticed.
What do those scripts sound like? Can you give examples?
Oh, they're usually rooted in that feeling of scarcity or comparison we talked about, the taṇhā. Things like, I have to close this deal, otherwise I'll fall behind everyone else. Or, if I can just earn X amount, then maybe my family, partner, peers will finally respect me or see my worth. Or even just, I need more money because I'm terrified of not having enough.
Yeah, those sound familiar. They feel driven by anxiety.
They are. They're survival-driven scripts. They might make you work hard, sure, but they also guarantee a baseline level of anxiety because your sense of self-worth, your security, feels constantly dependent on hitting the next external target, which is always shifting.
So strategic spirituality means consciously hitting pause on that, interrupting that automatic fear spiral.
Precisely. It's about creating that tiny, crucial space between the stimulus, the fear, the pressure, and your response. And in that pause, you deliberately, consciously choose and inject an aligned intention, a chanda-based intention.
Replacing the old script with the new one?
Yeah. Like consciously affirming, I am pursuing this project because I believe it creates real value, something that heals or connects or solves a problem. Or, my professional growth is an act of responsible self-stewardship that expands my capacity to contribute and allows me to give generously without burning out. Or even, I choose to engage with this work from a place of sufficiency and service, not fear and lack.
Does that actually work? I mean, does just changing the thought really make a difference when the external pressures are still there?
It makes a profound difference. And it's not just philosophy, there's neuroscience to back this up. When our goals are connected to a clear sense of higher purpose, something beyond just personal gain or avoiding fear, it activates the brain's reward and motivation systems in a much more sustainable and resilient way. Aligned ambition, driven by chanda, is simply a better, more efficient engine for long-term growth and well-being than fear-driven striving.
Okay, that's encouraging. But what about non-attachment? That word always trips me up. It sounds like I'm supposed to just not care about results, which feels impossible if I'm running a business or, trying to pay my rent.
That's a really common and understandable stumbling block. We often misinterpret non-attachment as indifference, apathy, or carelessness. Like a truly spiritual person should just shrug their shoulders whether their business thrives or fails.
Yeah, exactly. And if I did that, I wouldn't just be unspiritual, I'd be irresponsible. So how do we understand non-attachment in this context of conscious ambition?
Okay, crucial distinction. Non-attachment in this framework does not mean indifference to the outcome. It means freedom from obsessive craving for a specific outcome and freedom from identifying your self-worth with that outcome. You absolutely can, and probably should, care deeply about doing your work well, with integrity, aiming for positive impact. but you cultivate an inner freedom from being crushed or inflated by the results, which are always influenced by countless factors beyond your control.
Freedom from obsession. Can you give an analogy?
The classic one, and I think it's still the best, is the skilled archer.
All right.
Think about a master archer. Does she care about hitting the target? Of course, she cares intensely. She dedicates years to rigorous training, honing her focus, perfecting her stance, understanding the wind, choosing the right arrow, executing the shot with utmost precision and presence.
Right. Total commitment to the process.
Total commitment.
Yeah.
But the moment that arrow leaves the bow,
She lets it go.
she releases it. Physically, yes, but also mentally. Her work, her fear of control, ended with the quality of her preparation and the execution of the shot. Whether the arrow hits the exact bullseye is now subject to conditions, a sudden gust of wind, an imperfection in the arrow shaft, things beyond her absolute control.
Okay, I like the analogy, but let's make it real. I'm not an archer. I'm trying to launch a product or secure funding. My mortgage payment, maybe my team's salaries, depend on that arrow hitting the target.
Yeah.
How do I genuinely release it mentally when the stakes feel so high?
You release the identification. The archer's deep sense of self-worth isn't tied to whether this specific arrow hits the bullseye. Her confidence comes from her training, her discipline, the integrity of her process. If the arrow misses, she doesn't collapse into self-hatred saying, "I'm a terrible archer, I'm worthless."
What does she do?
She observes, okay, what happened? Was my stance off? Did I misread the wind? Was the release clean? She returns to refining the process. It's this deep commitment to skillful action combined with the release of ego attachment to the specific result that preserves her joy, prevents burnout, and allows her to learn quickly from setbacks instead of being devastated by them.
Commitment to process, release of attachment to outcome.
Yeah.
So practically, how do I build this kind of alignment into my actual messy, busy workday? Is there a specific practice?
Yes, a very simple but powerful one, rooted in contemplative practice. Before you dive into the chaos, before the emails, before the task list, before the meetings take 60 seconds, just pause, put the phone down, close the laptop for a moment, and ask yourself this question sincerely. What is my core intention for today's work? Is the energy I'm bringing serving primarily my own anxiety, my ego's need for validation, or my fear of lack? Or is it aimed towards something larger, serving my values, contributing something meaningful, connecting with others authentically?
Just asking that question regularly.
Just asking it acts like a compass. It instantly reorients your energy. Even if the tasks themselves are mundane, that question reframes why you're doing them. It shifts you from being a hamster frantically running on the wheel of anxiety or ambition to being a conscious steward of your time and energy, directing them with purpose. It turns everyday work into a form of practice.
And I imagine this framework also changes how we deal with the inevitable setbacks, the failures.
Yeah.
When something doesn't work out financially or in business.
Absolutely. The default autopilot mind, the one driven by taṇhā and ego, tends to interpret failure as a personal verdict. See, I failed. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. And that shuts down learning, shuts down creativity.
Right, you just feel shame and want to hide.
But the mindful mind, the one operating from chanda and non-attachment to outcome, sees failure differently. It's not a verdict on your worth. It's simply feedback, data. It prompts curiosity, not condemnation. Okay, that didn't work as planned. Interesting. What were the conditions here? Was my initial intention clear and aligned? Was the strategy flawed? Did market conditions change unexpectedly? What can I learn from this? This mindset doesn't just feel better, it dramatically accelerates learning and adaptation because you're focused on understanding causes and conditions, not beating yourself up.
That makes sense. And this idea of checking intentions, it must apply to relationships too, especially around money, which causes so much conflict for couples.
Oh, a hugely important application. Financial stress is a massive trigger. But often, couples get stuck arguing about surface-level positions you spend too much versus you're too controlling with money, instead of getting curious about the underlying intentions and needs.
How would a mindful approach look different?
Well, let's take a common scenario. A couple is debating whether to take a significant financial risk, maybe investing savings into one partner's new business idea. Partner A is passionate, pushing for it. Partner B is extremely hesitant, maybe even blocking it.
If they just argue positions, it gets ugly fast. You're being reckless. No, you're just scared and holding us back. Accusations fly.
Exactly, toxic. But a mindful, aligned approach interrupts that pattern. They pause the argument and try to understand the why behind each position. Partner A might articulate the chanda driving them. Look, I feel this deep pull to create this business. I genuinely believe it can solve a real problem and do good, and yes, potentially support us better long term. It feels purposeful.
Okay, and partner B.
Partner B might then explore the roots of their fear, which could be taṇhā-driven anxiety. My resistance isn't because I don't believe in you. It's because I have this deep-seated fear of instability, maybe from my childhood, and the thought of losing our savings triggers panic about security.
So by naming the underlying driver, the purposeful drive versus the fear of insecurity, they're not attacking each other anymore.
Exactly. They move from opposition to shared understanding. Now they can work together to find a solution. How can we honor the genuine call to create, partner A's chanda, while also respecting and addressing the legitimate need for security, partner B's fear? Maybe it means starting smaller, seeking external funding instead of using all savings, building in risk mitigation strategies. The financial challenge becomes an opportunity for deeper connection and co-creation based on mutual understanding of intentions.
This feels like it's all coming together now, integrating the intention, the action, the relationship. It leads to this final section, doesn't it? The sacred marriage, where ambition and peace aren't enemies anymore.
Exactly. Section 5, the sacred marriage and the culmination in generosity, or Dharma. This is where that inner war hopefully finds resolution. And the perfect metaphor for this integration, I think, is the lotus flower.
The lotus, right, it grows out of the mud.
Precisely. It blooms, stunningly beautiful, pure-looking, right out of the murky, muddy water. And the key is, the lotus doesn't apologize for rising. It doesn't curse the mud or try to pretend it's not part of its reality. In fact, it needs the mud.
So the mud is the material world.
Yeah.
The challenges, the effort, the finances.
Yes. The messy, complex, material reality of life, including business, money, ambition. Without that mud, there's no nourishment, no grounding, no possibility for the flower of awakening, of conscious success to bloom. True, integrated success is this sacred marriage of the spiritual impulse and the material reality. One fundamentally needs and supports the other.
So spirituality isn't about escaping the mud, escaping the world.
Not in this view. It's about fierce, clear-eyed, loving engagement with the world, with the mud. There's a powerful strand in Mahayana Buddhism, exemplified by figures like Vimalakirti, a wealthy, highly engaged layman who is considered incredibly wise, sometimes even more so than the monk.
What was the message there?
The message, beautifully put in texts like the Vimalakirti Sutra, is essentially, the Dharma, the path of awakening, is not separate from the world. To serve the world wisely, with clarity and compassion, is the highest practice. It's about bringing your wisdom into the marketplace, into your relationships, into your financial decisions.
So my ambition, if it's aligned, becomes the very vessel carrying my wisdom into the world. Every ethical deal, every client served with real presence, every investment made with clear, positive intention, those aren't distractions from my spiritual path.
They are your spiritual path, lived out, embodied, not separate.
And money itself in this picture, we've said it's not evil, but what is it?
Money is a powerful mirror. It's fundamentally neutral energy, a tool. But how you relate to it, how you earn it, save it, spend it, give it away, instantly reflects your deepest patterns and beliefs around power, trust, scarcity versus abundance, control, generosity, fear, all of it.
So the path of conscious success is demanding because it forces you to look in that mirror constantly.
Yeah, exactly. It asks you to stay awake, stay mindful, stay humble while you are growing, while you are becoming more influential or resourceful. It's a constant practice of integrity. And this naturally leads to giving, doesn't it? Generosity, Donna. You mentioned it's foundational. Foundational, often listed as the very first of the paramitas, the perfections or transcendent virtues. Why? Because generosity is the immediate, practical antidote to the grasping of taṇhā and the ego's tendency towards contraction and possessiveness.
How does it work?
When you cultivate the ability to earn with integrity, with clean hands and a clear conscience, and then you learn to share those resources with genuine joy, without resentment or expectation of return, something shifts. Wealth stops being a wall that isolates you, and instead becomes a current of connection, flowing out to support others, dissolving that illusion of a separate, isolated self.
So the more resources I can generate through aligned, purposeful work,
the greater your capacity to participate in that flow of generosity. Your success isn't just for you, it ripples outwards. It can fund innovation, support communities, create ethical jobs, contribute to causes you care about. Your success becomes woven into a larger web of well-being. It reinforces the idea that true spiritual maturity isn't measured by how little you possess, but by how wisely and freely you can circulate resources for the benefit of all.
which brings us to a final, powerful question for reflection.
Yes, a question to really sit with, to feel into, not just analyze. Ask yourself this. If I had 10 times the resources I have right now, 10 times the money, the influence, the reach, the capacity, what specific pain, what specific suffering in the world would I feel compelled to address or heal?
And the key is not just thinking about it logically.
No, pay attention to the feeling that arises in response to that question. Is there a specific issue that makes your heart ache? A particular group you feel drawn to support? A problem you instinctively want to solve? That resonance, that longing you feel?
That's not greed talking.
That is the furthest thing from greed. That resonance is the sound of your chanda, your deep purpose, your dharma, calling you towards greater impact, toward a greater scale. It's the universe inviting you to step up.
So the conclusion is, we can finally let go of that old dichotomy. The conflict is resolved.
We can. The ultimate measure of success isn't your net worth on a balance sheet. It's the net good you create in the world through your aligned action. Your success, when generated and used consciously, doesn't obscure your path, it illuminates it.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up, synthesize this journey. We started with that feeling of guilt, that spiritual shame around ambition. And what we've uncovered is that the guilt is based on a misunderstanding, an old story. Peace isn't found by crushing ambition.
No. Peace is found in the presence of alignment, when your inner values and your outer actions are in harmony.
And alignment isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice.
A daily, moment-to-moment practice. Checking that intention, that taṇhā. Staying honest, staying tender with yourself, even as you grow stronger, build capacity, navigate complexity.
But here's the interesting thing. Once you release that foundational guilt, once you give yourself permission to pursue aligned ambition, the journey doesn't just stop there, does it?
Not at all. In many ways, it just begins. You cross that first threshold, okay, it's okay to be ambitious and spiritual, and then new, arguably more subtle and challenging spiritual questions start to emerge.
Like what comes next?
Well, the challenge shifts. It moves from earning to stewarding.
Yeah.
The questions become things like, okay, I'm growing now, I have more influence, more resources. How do I handle this power without losing the humility that got me here?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Or how do I lead others, maybe a team, a company, a community effectively, but without letting my ego take over, without becoming arrogant or disconnected?
And maybe the toughest one for people who achieve significant success. How do I stay open, grounded, connected to my practice, connected to real people, when success inevitably brings more attention, more demands, more external pressure, more noise?
These aren't beginner problems anymore. These are the advanced spiritual curriculum, you might say, for the conscious leader, the conscious creator, the conscious builder in the modern world. They're thresholds of growth.
So that feeling, that hunger for growth, that drive to build something, to earn more in a way that feels right.
Right.
It's not necessarily something to be suspicious of.
It might not be a bug in your spiritual software at all. It might be the program running exactly as intended for this phase of your journey, that desire, that edge. It could be the very forefront of your evolution calling you forward.
So the final message is, go for it.
Go for it. Earn more with integrity. Build more with clear intention. And give more with joy and wisdom. The world desperately needs your unique gifts, scaled up. It needs your contribution, not in spite of your potential abundance, but precisely because of it. Your capacity to resource your compassion is vital.